equity gaps in course success. So this is just if the student succeeded, so they got a C or better on a STEM course, which includes chemistry, physics, calculus, pre-calculus. So any transfer STEM course in everything biology. We could then even segregate the data even more, and we'll notice that depending on the program, things will change a little bit, but the picture more or less looks the same. All right, so if you compare our students of color or underrepresented students, you can see that there's definitely an equity gap there. So our success rates are not as high. Yeah, so how do we deal with that? And that's part of the work of our programs is try to do that. And then talk about other things that we think should also be happening. But any questions on the graph? By the way, if you have any questions on Zoom, we have Dr. Kahane monitoring the chat. So you can just drop in a question on the chat if you have a question, if you're on Zoom. All right.
Whoops,
Oh,
back. There we go.
now, if you look at nationwide, if you look at STEM degrees, but if you disaggregate the data by race and ethnicity, you see the same thing happens. So the top bar graph shows you the population demographics nationally. So and this is in 2020, and I'm guessing it's not that much different in 2024. But if you notice, we have the Hispanic or Latino students that receive STEM degrees, or sorry, the population of Latino and Hispanic students in the States, it's represented where they represent 22% of the population. So theoretically, if everything was equitable, this same 22% should be the same all the way across the different types of degrees that students are receiving in STEM. Which is, you can notice in associate degrees, we do really well, right? We're even above the population percentage. But as you go down, it's the percentages start to decrease, and it really decreases. It's really low at the doctorate level, right? So only 9% of doctorate degrees are obtained by Hispanic or Latino students, which is a very, very significant difference, or huge gap. Same happens with our Black and African American students and our Native American and Alaska Native students. Again, so if you look at the numbers at the top, those numbers should reflect what happens with the degrees down the bars. And you can see for African American students, it starts the population. They make up 14% of our population. Only 10% get associate degrees in STEM, 9% bachelor's, and then 11% master's, and then once again, half of what we expected to be for doctorate degrees with only 7%. And for our Native American students and Alaska Natives, that's the last bar. You can't really see it. It's unfortunate the representation is small in the nation, so they're about 1% of the nation, but in terms of associate degrees, it should be what it should be, right? 0.9% or 1%. But even right at bachelor's and master's and doctorates, it's half of what it should be, right? So another significant gap that we need to close, and we've been working for many years to close, and so that's kind of the struggle. And then the next slide just shows you the workforce numbers. So on the left side, what you have is they're comparing 2011 to 2021, so it's a 10-year comparison. And, all the groups essentially, if you look at the STEM workforce, so, so African Americans increased from 7% to 9% of our STEM workforce. Hispanic and Latino, STEM workforce went from 11 to 15. So there is a small increase in each one. And same goes with our Native American group. But if you look to the right, the type of STEM fields that the or Latino students, for example, work in are more represented in STEM jobs that do not require a bachelor's degree.
Mm.
Right, so like technicians, I'm guessing, I'm not a science person, but I'm guessing it's those jobs that are more like technical doing things. Because those numbers are represented here too, right? So it's all STEM jobs. So it's not necessarily the researcher or it's every person that works in something related to STEM. And so Hispanic, of our Hispanic Latino workers in the STEM force, there's 20% work in fields where they need a bachelor's, versus 72% work in jobs in STEM, but they don't require a bachelor's degree. Right, so even though there's an increment in the type of STEM jobs that we have less in the degree area. Questions? All right. So those are the numbers, and I tell you the numbers don't lie because a lot of times you have people that argue with like, oh, things are all nice and, it's all equitable and everybody gets the same education or the same chance. But these numbers, don't lie, and unfortunately, we haven't really moved the needle that much in hundreds of years. We'll look at the history of our programs, but let's talk about something that's positive and talk about how we are working towards closing these gaps and increasing the number of degrees and higher or graduate degrees in STEM, and also increasing the workforce numbers for those jobs that require higher degrees or graduate. And I'll let Sarah talk about the doctor.
Monday?
Are you a doctor?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'll let Sarah talk about MISA.
Yeah, so, in light of, what Gabi has shown us, there are programs, funded by both the state and the federal government. And so what we'd love to do is to share what we are doing currently here at Cuesta College to help start to address much of what Gabi outlined for us. So MESA is a state-funded program. We're funded by the state of California. It is the Mathematics, Engineering, Science Achievement Program. This is a brief timeline. I won't get into everything, but I did want to just show sort of the history of MESA, a program like MESA, and how we got it at Cuesta. It is brand new to Cuesta College, and I'm happy to say that the state of California has just approved 91 new programs within the community college system. So MESA is an equity program. It has its roots in the civil rights movement. It came right out of the civil rights movement in the late 60s and early 70s, and is unique to California. It actually started really with a pilot program that would eventually become MESA. The Berkeley School of Engineering professors in the early 70s were very concerned about the lack of African American representation in their programs, and so they reached out to some technical high schools in Oakland and really grassrooted what would eventually become MESA. So this is a timeline of sort of how MESA has progressed to very recently, awarding 91 new programs within the community college system. And for us here again, we just are wrapping up our very first semester of implementation here at Quest College. Very thankful, that's how I came about and being able to even have work. Generation community college Latina student, and so it is a benefit in all areas for sure. So we could go ahead and go on to the next slide, Gabby. And so just wanted to share a little bit about MESA as a program, what we're here to do, how we support our students. So I like to say that MESA is an academic support program that acts like a student support program. Just personally, my professional background is in student support side of the house. So working in areas like financial aid, EOPS, CareCalWorks, Transfer Center, and working for specialized programs funded by the state or the federal government. So when MESA, this opportunity to join and really implement this MESA program here at Cuesta College came about, there is a real equal component of academic support to student support that is allowable within our grant guidelines, which is really essential for our students. So MESA is also implemented within the K-12 system, community college system, and the UC system here in the state. So there's touch points at all areas for our students to engage in the MESA program. And each stage has its own sort of specific function or objectives. Typically, you'll see K-12 is more just introducing STEM as a possible interest or as a possible area of study for students, just to really start engaging our students with STEM in general. Here at the community college level, our program is really here to produce a diverse body of students within the STEM field, specifically to prepare our students for transfer. That is our primary goal. And then, of course, to get them to transfer to then, of course, help diversify industry. So here at the community college, we're really focused in what I like to say sort of three areas of support, primarily being academic. First and foremost, MESA is here to support students in their STEM degrees and their pathway. And I'll talk a little bit about how we do that. Secondary to that is a financial component. So MESA participation is free to our students. Every service that is made available to our students is free to them. MESA fronts that bill, so to speak. And we're even able to provide direct support like stipends, things like that for our students. And then the third area is what I just sort of like to call the gray area of education is that really that social emotional support side. So this is where we get to provide enrichment workshop for our students that typically you'll see in more student support programs like EOPS, like TRIO programs. We also get to provide that enrichment. And so who's eligible? So we do have eligibility. We are a program. Students do have to meet certain eligibility in order to participate. So for our STEM students, they must be in a calculus-based STEM major. So there's a certain academic component and requirement that they must meet. So as long as they are in a calculus-based STEM major for transfer, they meet that first requirement component. The second is that all of our students must be first generation. So as long as your parent or guardian has not achieved a bachelor's degree or higher in the US or in any other country, they do qualify. Of course, if they have siblings who have gone to college and got a degree, they are still first generation. And then all of our students must display a financial need. So this is receiving Pell Grant via the FAFSA application, Cal Grant via California Dream Act application, or the California Community College Promise Grant. So they do just have to have some kind of financial need. MESA, because we are funded by the state of California, we also can support undocumented students, which is a real benefit. And then just a little note, so we also have a sister program called ASUM. ASIM is literally just MESA backwards, and it's supposed to be a mirror image of MESA. And really our ASIM program is sort of a catch-all for any student who meets 2 of the 3 eligibility criteria. So for example, we may have students who are a calculus-based STEM major, not first generation, but receiving financial aid. We could potentially accept them as an ASIM student. Or the other way around, calculus-based STEM major, first gen, but for whatever reason not receiving financial aid, there is a way that we can still include those students in our program. That's really great. While MESA is our primary focus, we are able to invite our ASIM students. We currently have 29 MESA students in our very first semester of implementation and 4 ASIM students. Our ASIM students get all the same support. I just can't, just from a program perspective, I just can't spend direct dollars on them, but we are able to provide them all the support that our MESA students get. And so the support services, the way that we address those 3 areas, that academic support, financial support, and the social emotional support, is through things like academic tutoring. We have our own center here on campus, so we're located inside the math lab. But we have our own classroom that is set up for our students. We have tutoring in the center for our students to utilize. We have our own academic counselor who just meets with our MESA ASIM students when she's working with us. And this is not to override what our students can be using that the community college provides in general. This is in addition to. The other component is that we are also looking to create a sense of community for our students. They're all first generation, they're all displaying some sort of financial need in STEM. So we want to create a space for them to feel accepted and like they're doing this with folks who also look like them and are also starting sort of from a similar baseline. We support with transfer because we are trying to get our students into transfer. So we'll support with Transfer 101 workshops, having our academic counselor support our students with presentations, and then helping to facilitate their UC or CSU application. We even have the capability to pay for those UC, CSU application fees, so we can assist our students in those ways. Again, financial support, everything that we provide our students is free to them, so the center in and of itself, they can borrow textbooks, graphing calculators, laptops, printing, any events, workshops, snacks. We offer students food, which is a great community builder in and of itself, trips, conferences, things like that. And then our enrichment workshops, which kind of wraps up our 3 last points all together. So really honing in on maybe some of those soft skills that our students just need a little bit of additional support with. Typically our incoming freshmen, what I see is just an absolute need for time management. Our students K-12 have been directed by teachers and parents and counselors from K-12. They graduate high school, they've got 3 months, and then we expect them to be able to know how to build their own schedule or know how to manage their work, study life, class life. Some students do, but many students don't. So just being able to provide enrichment workshops like time management, for sitting down and spending a little bit of extra time actually fleshing that out, giving them a calendar that they can write those things in. Presenting stress management workshops, especially around midterms and finals, and just providing a little bit of additional social emotional support we're finding is really, really helpful for our students. So we are currently accepting applications for the fall 24 semester. And we've got flyers and we'll go table outside. If you engage with students, we would love for you to share our information. And then we do have some, I forgot my notes here, just some statistics about who our students are, how many students represent MESA within the state of California. So overall, there's over 24,000 students, MESA students in California. MESA serves over 350 middle and high schools, 40, well now it's nearly every community college in California and 13 universities at the UC level. And we've got some stats for our top degrees, and some, testimonials of how MESA has, been a support to students, who have gone through the program and have now found themselves, in industry. And I was sharing with the team earlier, this particular quote is from Katia Chandarata, who is the, you may have known, she is the first Mexican-born woman to go to space. She now works with NASA. And she was in the MESA program, I believe at, universities. UCSD, I think. Yeah, it would have been UCSD. So we're really excited that we've been able to implement this program. We're looking to build our program, obviously. Like I mentioned, we have about 30 MESA students. And for ASAM, my goal is to get to about 50 for fall semester. So a lot of outreaching. We're really excited about where this program is going and how we can just help close those gaps that Gabi was showing us. And give our students an opportunity to contribute to industry. Any questions about MESA? Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's my turn, so I'm gonna talk about, the LSAM program, and then also the SACNAS, club that we have on campus. So a little bit of history about LSAMP. It actually started as AMP without the LS back in 1991. And it was, Congress, authorized this, alliance, and, the idea behind the alliances, or these alliances, was that groups of colleges would get together as an alliance to address this gap in our underrepresented students in STEM. And so it started out with, the name of Alliance for Minority Participation in STEM, or AMP, back in 1991. That's when that happened. I actually started, as a student in AMP in 1996. That picture is 1998, you probably can't see it, it's blurry. I usually have, students go up there and try to find me, part of the presentation, but, anyway, so 1996, I was sort of recruited by my algebra 2 teacher in high school. And she had some pamphlets and some outreach from the university that I attended to, which was CSU Stanislaus in the Valley. And she said, oh, check out this pamphlet. It seems like a cool thing to do in the summer. Back then, at least our program at our university held, sort of a summer, session where you got to stay at the dorms for 6 weeks. And you attended STEM classes that would be preparing you for the fall. So, sorry about that. So we took classes like, for example, freshmen would take classes that would prepare us either for pre-calc or calc. We did a lot of project-based learning, and so that was helpful because a lot of us, even though we liked the math part of the applications, we weren't so fond of the word problems or applications at that point. And so it was a good way to start. And as we started the semesters in those classes, it was like, okay, it's still not as easy to do, but I saw that in the summer. They gave us graphing calculators, which was the thing back then, the technology. I think nowadays we would probably give out laptops or something like that. But yeah, it was like the fancy thing, the fanciest calculators. And everybody got one in addition to a $1,000 stipend of the end of the summer program. So that's where when I experienced and when I knew that programs like this could be successful, we had a large group at our school, and most of us, a good percentage of us, I want to, anecdotal, so not completely accurate, but I would say probably at least 75% of our group of 30 students at least received their bachelor's in STEM. I have several friends that got master's degrees, anywhere from physicists, engineers. A couple of my colleagues are also, they went into teaching math. And so, yeah, so, in 1998, we'll talk about how I circle back to LSAM. But, I did the program from 96 to 2000. I actually, was the assistant for the next couple of years after that, after I graduated. I assisted during the summer. But in 1998, which I was still involved in the program, but I never knew that they changed the name. Because when I learned about the new name, I was like, wait, why is it calling this out? So it happens that in 1998 to honor, shoot. I didn't put the name. Oh, Louis Stokes. That's why I didn't put it there. So, to honor Louis Stokes, which was the first African-American senator of Ohio, and he was a civil rights lawyer back in the 60s. So to honor all the work he did in terms of civil rights movement and helping minorities, they renamed the program the Louis Stokes Alliance Program. Or Alliance for Minority Participation Program. So that's how LSM, the name came about in 1998. And the program has mainly been at the 4-year level. So CSUs, UCs, both systems have their own LSAM program. So Cal Poly has their own LSAM program. And I don't know if you've heard of it. No? Okay. You should look into it if you have. But so started out with the CSUs and the UCs, so they have their own alliance. And their alliance is a system completely. And this, a couple of years ago, 2021, we created our own alliance, and the first one in the state where it involves only community colleges. So the Community College Alliance, Louis Stokes Alliance program or alliance. And our alliance has the main Central Coast community colleges. So starting all the way up north to Cabrillo, which is in Aptos, Santa Cruz area. And next down Monterey, then us, Cuesta, then Allen Hancock, Santa Barbara City, Ventura, Moore Park. Oxnard, and then Moore Park all the way south. So the purpose of these alliances, like I said, is to combine our resources as colleges to support our minority students or unrepresented, underserved students in STEM. And we had our first cohort here at Cuesta back in 2022. So we're at the end of our 30-year cycle of the grant, and I forgot to mention LSAMP is a NSF grant, so it's not a state grant, so it does have more limitations in terms of who can participate, but in a way also less requirements. The only requirements really for it to be part of LSAMP is that you're a STEM major. And that you identify as one of the underrepresented groups that NSF gets to define, which is the usual African American, Latino students or Latinx students, Native Americans, Alaska Natives, Hawaiian Natives, and Pacific Islanders. So if you identify as one of those groups and you're in STEM, the NSF portion that kind of is more limited is that you have to either be a resident of the US or you have to be a citizen of the US to be able to get direct funding from the program. We have students that don't necessarily meet that requirement, but we still welcome them into the program. The only limitation is that we can't fund like internships or scholarships directly to them. So we find other avenues like Meta to help us out with that. So here at Cuesta, this is the vision that I had with taking my experience as a student in LSAM and the goals of, the three main goals of the Alliance, when we wrote the grant, was to do increase, so academic support for students. So that, that involves in what we call embedded tutoring here on campus, which involves a tutor that goes to, the instructor's class and also holds hours after class for the students. The other big one is to, create undergraduate research opportunities for our students. And the third one was to connect students to industry. I threw everything out there from my experience and from other things that I've learned, which a lot of the stuff overlaps with MESA. And a lot of the LSAM students actually overlap with MESA too. So having the two programs work together really, makes it, a lot stronger and a lot easier to do a lot of things. But things like social support, peer mentoring, we have, the embedded tutors have faculty mentors. That's another piece that we, would like to work on. The other piece that we're still, sort of in the works is the family component, which we believe, will be, it's critical to have. And when I was part of LSAM, that was part of our LSAM program. Our parents always came at the beginning, for example, of the summer session. Our parents came to the orientation, they walked them around the campus, the dorms. And then at the end of the program, they had a ceremony and all the parents came. And so we're Seth and I are sort of brainstorming of how MESA and LSAM can do that in the future. And then we also connect students to other resources on campus. And that's where this non-academic support really, that's where we use the other parts of the campus, like our career center, health center, financial aid, everything that's available on campus, which some students don't know that it is available, or sometimes they find it scary to actually use the resources. And so we try to work with them so that we get a more warm, direct connection to support services. So here a question of what we've done so far in the 3 years. We've started to do a spring undergraduate research program, and we had a couple of examples up here of students that participated last year. And so we got a couple of faculty on campus to work with these students to work on some research projects, just to get them exposed so that when they go to Cal Poly or to their four-year schools or graduate schools, they at least have that experience. And last year we had 6 students do that. This year we doubled that, so we have 12 students and 4 or 5 faculty that are supervising those projects. And I didn't put it there, but part of the professional development and the research, if you see that picture, Benjamin or Hurley is presenting his poster, which is this one here at Cal Poly. So the Alliance, part of the undergraduate research component, we have an annual student poster presentation day. And we've been having it at Cal Poly, and it seems like that's where it's gonna be. We first thought it's gonna be at different four-year schools, but Cal Poly has really clung to us, and they're like, you've got to have it here every year. And we have it together with some of their schools, their School of Engineering and Social Sciences, with us. And so, all the students across the Alliance, so across the 8 schools that, would like to, that did a research project the previous year, gets to present in this low stakes scenario where they don't have to worry about competition or anything like that. It's just practicing that, poster presentation portion. Professional development wise, we've been, trying to take our students to different conferences. First year we went to the Haku Conference, which is the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. They have an annual conference where, there's networking. The students did a leadership, program, over 3 days in San Diego, which is nice. Last fall, and so this year we went to the SACMES conference, which I'll talk about in a second, which, kind of is around the same idea of networking, but also more centered around research. We try to do at least one industry, tour. This year we're going to, Dr. Kahane's, husband's, place of work for Omega. It's also biotech, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, so last year we went to PBS, which is in Camarillo. It's also a biotech company, and that company produces, these, things or, what are they called? Containers that, harvest cells, right, for research. And so we talked to the engineers, we talked to the biologists, and we talked to the sort of the management, side of the house and some computer sciences, and so they talk about what they do and how they got there and what to do to get jobs like that. So it's a great experience for our students. And the other big part that we wanted to, really, have is this community, where students, have this group of friends or, classmates that, are accept, and they also look like them. If you, want to visit, you can use the QR code, but if you click on one or the other, doesn't matter, but if you click on the QR code,
Oh, my bad. Oh, click on it?
yeah, just so that,
No. It didn't take me anywhere.
does it not have, go to the other one? Maybe I did,
I don't.
it's probably the other
Yeah,
presentation.
no
Okay,
worries.
use the QR code, you can, check us out, the LSAM public website, that's in the Cuesta public site. And so you'll see the different things that are happening, highlights, events, if you know of students that are coming to Cuesta and, you think this would be a good program to connect them to, there's a, well, we call it an application, but really it's just like, do you want to be part of it if you meet the requirements? There's no GPA requirement for our program, so this STEM identifies an underrepresented student of the groups listed and either a resident or a citizen. Questions, and let's have.
But that one doesn't have the, requisite to be financial gain.
No,
Nor.
no, first gen, yeah, so a lot of, we have a couple of students that are in LSAM. That do identify as one of the represented groups, but they either don't have the financial need or they're not first gen.
Mhm.
But since we are working together, we kind of find ways to, to fund, so they still sort of participate in all this stuff. And if they need direct funding, like I could use LSAMP money,
Mhm.
or the other way, they don't qualify for LSAMP. But I can use MESA money.
So I think a really good example of the way that we can overlap is, Gabi holds his LSAMP meetings in the MESA Center. And many of our students are like MESA and LSAMP or ASIM and LSAMP or just LSAMP, but we are working together. We're able to find ways to just sort of serve our students, have them build that community, and then it's our job to sort of find the specific funding source to support our students. So I think that's really helping
I
to
think,
create a
yeah,
cohesive like experience for our STEM students who meet this general criteria.
Right.
Yeah.
And then having the MESA Center, gives us a space that we didn't have for LSAM in the past. In the past, we just had to find some sort of conference room to meet for LSAM because we didn't have a designated space. But Mesa always comes with a center that's designated, just for Mesa. And so we've kind of, not taken over
No.
Mesa Center, but, we've used it as sort of our space where, again, it's a very relaxed setting, so, and we have snacks
And we have snacks, yeah.
and movie nights,
Yeah.
but yeah, any other questions on that or comments?
I was seeing in one of the previous slides
Uh-huh,
that there's the Alliance has all these coaches. Central.
the Central Coast,
Yeah.
There is a couple of coaches missing there. You know the story why they are?
well, I know of one of them that didn't, like, they were part of the free writing of the grant. And it was
It's probably
Hartnell.
Hartnell, yeah, Hartnell's in between. them people.
Hartnell, and I think Gavilan.
Gavson, Gilroy,
Yeah, so it's a little bit more
yeah,
inland, but
That is the.
yeah.
yeah, so they were part of the free writing of the grant, but when we got down to the final part, they decided not to be part of it. And I don't know why, which, I mean, it didn't make sense to me, but, yeah.
Yeah.
So they maybe felt like they already had, I don't know, I mean, but it's still, I don't. But you do have to have, like a faculty person lead it, so maybe they didn't have interest from faculty to actually lead it. That could have been part of the reason. Yeah, but definitely, yeah, I'm trying to think of, and it's Central Coast mainly. I think we hit most of them,
Mhm.
at least starting from Cuesta down. Yeah, I think of any other.
No, just Hartnell, really,
Sorry.
yeah.
Alright,
So that,
alright, so, the last, and this one's a club that I wanted to talk about, which is a recent thing that's, started here at, campus. So, have you guys heard of StockNest? Yeah, so, if you haven't heard of StockNest, the, organization started, or the society started back in the 70s, 1973, and it was April, should say 19. I think my other presentation, I think it should be April 1973, they had their first
Oh.
annual national conference, and it was in New Jersey. So how it started, was, again, trying to address these gaps. But in particular, StockNest was focusing on the Mexican-American Chicano experience and Native Americans in science, which, again, and if you go to their website, they talk about the way back history as to why this might have happened, but it involves the American Indian Wars and the Mexican, what do we call the Mexican-American War? When the states of California, Utah, part of Arizona, part of New Mexico were annexed from Mexico. After the war, after Mexico was defeated by the US. And so there was people that were living here that's sort of got to stay, and you can read more about that in the history. But as a result, there's this underrepresentation in science or STEM, and so Chicano, Mexican-American, and Native scientists felt the need to have some sort of support structure and to increase the representation. And so that's how they started more or less the society back in the 70s. And our first So we actually went to the SACMAS conference last year, which is pretty amazing. So we took 6 of the LSAM students. And if you haven't been, the conference it does involve networking, but it also centers around student research. So for 2 days of the conference, students present on any kind of research they did, in the previous year. And they have over 1,000 presentations that you can see over the conference. It's really hard to look at all of them, so I just focus on specific disciplines. But if you have students in bio, they can just go to the bio ones and they have plenty of them to look at. And it's cool to see the experience, of seeing themselves doing it, because most of the students presenting, again, look like that, right? And it's, and not only that, there's hundreds and hundreds of universities that are there trying to recruit, companies that are trying to recruit also. So it's, if, you can attend, if you want to, of the ones that I strongly recommend. Especially if you're in STEM. So after we just went to the conference for LSAM as a part of professional development undergraduate research experience. But after the experience, we had already, the person that ended up being the president of the club, or is the president of the club. We talked about it before we went to the conference about starting a club, but there was not a lot of interest. But after the conference, we felt like we had to have a club on campus, and it follows the same mission as LSAM and MESA, but it's student-led, right? So it gives them a chance to actually apply their leadership skills that they've been learning through the different programs. And it also looks quite well on transfer applications and scholarships. So we started our club, we established it actually this spring, just this spring, 2024. So we're a club on campus, we're not quite yet a chapter, national chapter. We placed an application and we're waiting to hear, and we either should hear next week or maybe today or next week, if we met they have some requirements you have to meet in order to become a nationally recognized chapter of SACMAS. So that's in the works. Hopefully we'll get that. So here are our different officers at the moment. So Tiffany Pineda, she's our president. She's an engineering student. Lina Guardado, she's the vice president. She's also an engineering student. Roy Murphy is our secretary. He's in environmental science or engineering?
Science.
Just science,
Yeah.
yeah, environmental science. Aiden is computer engineering.
Architectural engineering.
Architectural engineering, he's our treasurer. And then Kaito is our social media person. And Kaito is in computer engineering. So, it is a student club, so they don't necessarily get funds from, they get, I think, student clubs get like $200 either a year or semester. But one of our goals is to take as many students to the SACMAS conference and to do other things. And so we do have our own donations page through the school, through the foundation. So, yeah, if you want to share. I used to have a link. I don't think it has a link. It's the other. Oh, yeah.
Oh, maybe it does.
Yeah,
Let's
that
see.
worked. So right now we just started it, by the way. So our goal is to hit 15,000. And even though the students don't know, a good chunk of that 15,000 that we need, we, at least a good portion, LSAM is going to, fund. I don't know how much Mesa has. But, but our goal is to take at least the active participants, and those that do wanna come that are not as active, you know, they just have to try to donate or fundraise. And we have other fundraising things that are, and again, everything is, they're all doing everything, so they're starting some other fundraising events that they wanna do, and different projects on campus. They wanna work with K-12.
Yeah.
With free tutoring. So, yeah, it's, a lot of good things are happening. And I think it's just gonna grow and grow. We currently have, I think, 20 members in the club, and then in LSAP. Not necessarily active, but we have 65 students that have applied to be part of it. But we have somewhere between 15 and 20 that are actually active. But we don't, you know, if they can be active one semester, it's fine, like, we don't pick them out. But a lot of times students are kind of, they feel embarrassed to come back if they don't participate, but they're always welcome.
Well,
I think if we're out of time.
Yeah, we're just about there.
can I say like 10 seconds?
Yeah,
Atlas. When I was student, I went to talk to the conference.
Oh, nice.
oh, yeah, cool, yeah, tell us.
Well, what I wanted to say is that for young people. The more conferences they go, the better, because that's a different situation. They get connections
Yep,
that might be a life changing.
yep.
One conference,
Yep.
Mhm.
they might motivate, be motivated.
Mhm.
They have the actual resource, the actual connections, the actual idea to follow only for that.
Yep, yep, I completely agree.
That might be kind of hidden, but
Yeah,
that's the.
yeah, no, that's, yeah, definitely, I completely agree with you, and I've been pushing. So our grant, for example, our LSAM grant is over this year, but, we actually just got an extension for next year, so we're good. But once that cycle ends, we have to reapply for another, 3-year cycle. And in our new, application or a new grant, I strongly recommended that conferences is one of the, because right now it doesn't, our grant doesn't specifically say conferences, even though we can use the money for whatever, it's very flexible. But if we have a budget line for conferences, that gives us, more leverage to go to as many as we can.
To me, the only way I saw SACNAS was SACNAS equals conferences. Because it's exposing the student to the world,
Yep,
to be part of what you don't know, it's there when you're at the university, the college, it's a very small bubble,
yep,
but in a conference, you are not only in what's in the United States, but also from other places.
other places, yeah, we had people from Puerto Rico, Guam, the one we went to. Yeah, that was one of the experiences the students were like, one of the best things about it was like they met people from all over the place and they, you know, now they have those networking connections, even just with the students, you know, because.
So now talking about that, what else then you guys do in chapter SACNAS? That's not.
So since we just started this semester, this semester has been a lot of like planning for what's coming. So, other than the conference is the big one right now that they're really focusing on. But the other thing that they really want to strengthen is community involvement, specific engagement, and, campus engagement. Because it's, yeah, because of COVID and even before COVID, I think there's and Alex, you can correct me,
Mhm.
but at least my experience when I came to Cuesta 6 years ago, and there was not a lot of student engagement outside of class, it seems to me, so. So. And I know it's a commuter school, right, so the students usually just take off after class. So it's-
We've had a very strong STEM club for the last at least 15 years, but other than that, not very much. You know, the
Right.
STEM club is open for everyone. It's not targeted support.
Right. Yeah. Even just having that space is good. It's good. Yeah, and I only see positive, big things, exciting things coming from the club. Cool, all right.
Thank you so
you.
much for joining and thank you for our online participants as well. Thank you so much. And I think
Let's go have lunch.
lunch and resource fair is available, yeah.
Well, we have there at the resource fair, we have pamphlets and flyers if you are interested.
Yep.
Yeah,
Alrighty,
thank
thanks
you.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.